Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. It is 1 p.m. I can confirm we do indeed have quorum. I have received regrets from Jackie Collier, Tara Everett, and Adrian Tangella. I am now happy to turn it over to you, Mr. Clerk, not Mr. Clerk, Mr. Chair, to get the meeting started. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk, for that introduction. So we're going to call the meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. Can I have an approval of the agenda, please? Okay, I see moved by Ian Clark, seconded by River. All those in favor? Okay, and that passes. Thank you. Okay, and moving on, confirmation of the minutes. That the minutes of Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee meeting number 02-2024 held Thursday, February 8th, 2024 be approved. Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by River, seconded by by Ian. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, and that passes. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Nope, seeing none. Okay, there are no briefings, which moves us on to business. So item A, Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee work plan. And will a staff member be speaking to that item? Director Nordegraff.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you. Last meeting, we actually had a conversation at this table around kind of the work plan, and we did receive some of your inputs on kind of what topics to bring forward. One of the valid comments was to bring to have a session with various presentations from the partners that we work with, which we have included in this report. And we also went through some of our staff recommendations. So we did provide you with actually a quite, I would say, versatile overview of various topics. You will see that we are proposing not only to bring some housing and homelessness or housing and social services department work to this table, but also to bring some engagement from our climate leadership group on affordable housing and energy efficiency and climate implementation measures, and also a session on artists and affordable artist spaces. So we just presented this to you. Obviously, there's an opportunity to ask questions, to provide feedback, but this will be kind of the schedule for the next sessions.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Nordegraff. Are there any questions from committee members with regards to this business item? River?
Hi there. So I was looking over the minutes from the previous meeting and some of the like stuff that has been presented here. I was just wondering, in what ways, other than obviously presenting it to us, are we including like people with lived experience in the actual development of the work plan?
Director Nordegraff?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Thanks for that question, River. I would say in the establishment, obviously, of the work plan, this committee that does have also representation, lived experience representation on it, like the work plan has been established with the Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee feedback. Maybe to dive a little bit deeper, and I hope this answers your question, River, for all these different initiatives. We, for instance, an evaluation of the homelessness system, the work that we do on the 10-year housing and homelessness plan, like our intent in the work that we do is to also have engagement with people with lived experience or living experience. So I think it's both the representation around this table and the feedback, but in the kind of the work, the projects and initiatives that will come to this committee, we definitely will include that where we can and where it's I would say appropriate. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think just like the involvement more of like consultation with while we're developing all of these kind of like very separate initiatives, like making sure that like all voices are involved, right? So yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions from members of the committee with regards to this business item? Okay, seeing none, so, okay, all right. Well, I guess we will move on to the next business item, which is, oh, no, sorry.
Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public with regards to this business item?
So I will recognize Tammy Lunn.
You have the floor, Tammy. You have 5
Hi,
minutes.
everyone, and thank you for allowing me here. If I could ask questions of Ms. Nordegrath. I just noticed in the report that it's saying in the last 2 months that 44 people have become housed. I'm just wondering if you could advise where those individuals became housed.
So sorry to interrupt, Tammy. We're talking about the first item on the agenda right now, which is the working plan. I believe your question is more about the second item on the agenda, which is the actual report from staff. Is that correct, Tammy? Just to confirm?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask if you have any questions or comments with regards to this specific business item. And if not, then we can move, or if there are no other members of the public that wish to speak to this item, then when we are done, when we move on to the next item, you'll have the opportunity to ask those questions, just to keep
Okay.
things moving in order.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, are there any other members of the public that wish to speak to this item on the agenda?
I am not seeing any movement, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda here.
Mr. Chair, sorry, that is a recommendation. I need a mover and a seconder and a vote on it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation, please? See Councillor Tozo and Nikki. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, that is approved. Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk, for the reminder about the recommendation. Okay, moving on to item B, standing update report, April 2024. And will staff member speak to that, please? Director Nordegrath.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I think I will be brief because I do anticipate there's probably a couple of questions. As you know, the format of this report is really just to provide an update on various items. We have provided a high-level overview of the by name list. As you can see, the number has been pretty stable over the last little while. We did indicate the number of people that have been housed and the number of people that have been added to the list. Maybe to just kind of preempt a question that I think Tammy is asking. I do not have the details on where all these individuals specifically have been housed. We do not go into that level of detail in the reports. However, what I can offer is at our next meeting in June, we actually would like to have a more deeper presentation on the by name list with the support of some of my staff and the Build for Zero consultants that we work with. So we definitely are happy to share kind of the types of housing or the kind of where people have landed in, and not just last month, but just in general, an overview of that. We also obviously are aware that not everybody on the by name list is accessing every service. So the numbers, we do our best to kind of reflect the use of different services, such as daytime services or shelters. But some individuals, do not access every service in our community. Again, we provided a bit of an update on the social housing program. We continue to see a bit of an uptick in the number of people accessing the social housing waitlist, which is obviously concerning. This is very, again, we always compare it with other communities, and we do see this across the province. Again, not surprising. We see this just as another outcome of the pressures on the housing system as a whole and the affordability. So moving forward, we've continued to update you on the number of portable housing benefits that have been accessed, the COCHI and OVI funding, and then on the affordable housing projects, we provided you with a status update of the various projects, as you are familiar with. We do, and I know that might also be a question that's coming up, and I appreciate that from the public. We are happy to provide some more details on the rent levels of those various projects. What I do want to share with the committee as well is we will be launching our home ownership program very shortly, which is a great opportunity for individuals that are able to move into home ownership. So details will be launched for that very soon. And we are very happy that the Homes for Heroes project has started to welcome their first tenants. I do understand that they have not been fully occupied, but again, I do not have the latest number of tenants that are currently in the project, residing in the project. What I will also point out to council is that next week we do have on the affordable housing side, a report going to council identifying a few new affordable housing development projects, which I'm sure the clerk's office can share with the committee as well for awareness. And I know that that will come back to this committee as well. And I see Ian is nodding, so I think that's it for updates. Happy to answer any questions. I'm sure there are a few. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Nordegraff. Are there any questions from members of the committee? River?
Hi there. I hope I'm in the right place again. I'm not always very good with this kind of parliamentary format. But my question, and I hope that it's okay because there's so many members of city staff and councillors here, is that right now I can see in the by name list, and again, the by name list is only how many people are accessing services. It doesn't cover the people that aren't counted by, I believe, the 9 providers, service providers in the area that actually contribute to it. So right now we're standing at 531 in February. And from my understanding, there's only less than half of that number can be accessed by shelter beds. There's, I think, around 207. I might be incorrect on that. And why I bring that up is just because with the city's recent decisions to enforce the kind of tricky situation with the encampments, where are we expecting
River.
people to go?
So yeah, no, I understand where you're going with the question. Just please keep the question with regards to the business item. So if you want to ask about the by names list and the shelter beds, that's fine. But just please keep it within that framework, please.
Yeah, no, I think it does relate though, because the numbers don't match up.
Director Nordegraff.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Thank you so much for that question, River. I know that that's a question we have received and continue to receive often. The by name list is not meant to be, or the by name list is a list of people that are accessing various services. Some individuals may not be accessing shelters. Some people may be living with family, might be incarcerated, might be in hospital. Obviously, a portion of this list is living rough. So yes, you're right. We do not have 531 sorry, and this needs to get the number 531 shelter beds. That is also not the intent of the by names list. The by names list is really a way of kind of having a sense of who are the individuals that are considered either at risk of being unhoused, living rough, accessing shelter. So this is a system, a coordinated access system, sorry, excuse me, to really understand kind of what the needs are of those individuals. By no means is the intent to build or have shelter beds for all the individuals on the list. Ideally, it's also folks that are that we can prevent from becoming homeless or prevent from having to access shelters. It is an evolved, like as you've seen over the last few years, this is a really new kind of approach as a system. All of our partners are utilizing this system, and it helps us to really better understand what the needs are in services, preventative services, different types of emergency housing, transition housing, supportive housing, and affordable housing solutions.
River, please.
I can see later in the report, and like I do appreciate your you bringing that up and explaining that yes, like not every client that is on the by name list is chronically unhoused, but that number is still, according to the 68% that are chronically homeless, 361. So still not being able to provide, and although I don't want to get on anyone's case, I still just want to make it present.
Okay, River, thank you. Do you have any other questions or comments?
I guess just I'm kind of at a loss of what we can do at a city level to raise concerns and to contribute to, like voicing our opinions on the decisions that the city has made.
Okay. Is there anyone else from the committee who would like to ask questions or speak to this business item? River, if you want to send me an email after, and we can talk, that would be good. Okay, seeing no other questions or comments from members of the committee, Mr. Clerk, do we have members of the public who wish to speak to this item?
Yes, I'm going to first recognize Tammy Lunn.
Okay, thank you for your patience, Tammy.
It's okay.
Now's
I do
the opportunity.
apologize.
No, that's quite all right. And
I've watched.
No worries. Just as a reminder, we're just speaking to this business item with regards to the contents. So please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Again, I'd like to direct this to Ruth Nordegraff. With the 44 individuals that are housed in the last 2 months and not being able to say specifically where the individuals were housed, are you able to say whether they went to supportive agencies or to private market rentals?
Director Nordegraff?
Thank you so much for your question. Unfortunately, I do not have an overview specifically, Tammy, of where people were specifically housed. It's likely a mix, but I do not want to speculate. So I would be more comfortable with taking that question and presenting a more comprehensive overview at a later date.
I also wanted to ask Ruth, with the transitional housing programs that are available throughout the city currently, and that relating to the by names list, to get on the by names list, you have to be homeless. And people that are in transitional housing programs are not able to get on the by names list. Is that correct?
So sorry, Tammy, just to keep the format going properly here. So please ask all of your questions, and then staff can answer them in sequence, just so it's not a back and forth thing. So if you have, just please continue with your questions, and then staff can answer them when just let me know when you're done, okay?
I'm done.
No, sorry, just to make sure that it goes smoothly. Thank you.
All right, next I will recognize Anita.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anita. Thank you, River, first of all, for highlighting that discrepancy between the by names list and the shelter bed capacity. I have two questions specifically about rent geared to income. The first one being, are there any plans to revisit the RGI eligibility given inflation and the rise in the cost of living? And then the second one being on page 15, I'm curious as to how many of the units being built are actually RGI as opposed to affordable housing, and specifically how many of the units in 1316 Princess are RGI. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Director Nordegren?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, there is one more member of the public. I'm going to recognize Crystal Wilson.
Hello, Crystal.
Hello. Hey, I'm just for the I am in a bit of a rush, so I was going to concede because I know you're busy too. I did send a list of questions, and some have been kind of addressed during this meeting. So I'm wondering if it would be okay if the chair or clerk share those questions with the committee so they could see the kind of questions we're asking, and then just respond with a written. Because some of the commitment already in this meeting is to answer some questions that have been asked already. But would that be okay? Or would you like me to read through the list of questions?
Well, let's take a look. So I don't have the email in front of me, Crystal. But yeah, we can. Is it okay? Do you want the questions answered during this meeting, or would you prefer that staff answer the questions and then get back to you?
If staff are willing to answer the questions in writing and copy it to the committee so they understand the kind of questions I'm asking. Most of my questions are, I'm a mathematician and an analyst, and I like numbers that are, you can wrap your head around. And so I found this report less robust than previous reports. And so a lot of the questions around information that I think is important for members of this committee to have, myself as an operator of a transition housing provider. Because we're all making decisions about homelessness, and I think this report is really important in that way, and I think there's more information that could be provided to all of us. So if staff or the committee are willing to reply in writing, that would be great. That would serve the purpose.
Okay, I've received notification that that's fine. So we can move forward with that then, Crystal.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're very welcome. Mr. Chair, are there any other members of the public?
Thank you for the promotion, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, there are no members, no other members of the public with their hands raised for additional questions. Thank you.
Okay, Director Nordegraff, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the members of the public and for the great questions. And we are very happy to answer those in an email. There's definitely a few questions where I would also not have a specific answer for today, and happy to share that also with the full committee, so the committee has some insights in those insightful questions. I will speak to, or I will start to speak to the question from the second member of the public on RGI, and I will ask my colleague Mitchell Grange to jump in as well, because he is the social housing lead in the department. On the RGI eligibility, the RGI kind of policies are legislated provincially. So we do not, and Mitch can jump in here, but we are following the provincial guidelines in income eligibility for social housing. So we all acknowledge that, challenges around social assistance rates and income levels are problematic given the current situation, cost of living, etc. But these are unfortunately levels that we cannot change unless the province will make those changes in the Housing and Social Services Act. And Mitch can totally correct me if I'm wrong. The number of RGI units, I know that that's a really important question as well that we receive often. And I know there's a lot of, folks wondering if we can add more social housing units. So first of all, we are, the minimum number of social housing units that we need to provide in our community is 2003, which we are. Again, this is mandated by the province. We also obviously recognize, and we've done lots of housing needs assessment work in the past few years, most recently as part of the Housing Accelerator funding application in August 2023, where we obviously identified the gaps in housing affordability and housing needs. What we are doing is we're definitely adding some social housing units in the 1316 Princess developments, I believe, and my colleague John Henderson can confirm that there's 10 additional RGI units. What I will say, though, is what we've also looked at is the actual cost of operating social housing and the ability to actually create more deeply affordable housing solutions that are not necessarily social housing. What we're looking at is how do we create more housing solutions that allow people with a shelter allowance or a shelter allowance plus a small rent supplement to make ends meet with their rents. So what we've been doing over the past few years is not only where we can add a few more RGI units, because they are quite expensive to operate, because the operating costs for these units do fall back onto the municipal tax base as well. And each social housing units, on average, the cost to operate is significant. Our budget annually for social housing is about $11 million for 2,000 units. What we've been doing, sorry, I'm going into a couple of different directions, is that we're trying to look at ways of actually working with the not-for-profit sector to reduce rents. So we have not only created more like rental units that are at 80% average market rent, which is still quite high, obviously, for folks on social assistance, but we're also looking at housing solutions that are 60% of the average market rents, or even at like deeply affordable shelter allowance levels. So I guess my very long-winded answer here is to say that yes, we are adding like some RGI units, but our main focus is at the bigger kind of what is the best use of our limited municipal tax dollars in housing solutions that are going beyond just the social housing sector. That was a whole conversation, sorry.
That's okay. All right, so moving on then in the agenda. Okay, we have no motions. We have no notices of motions. Are there any other business? Okay, seeing none. We have no correspondence. The date of the next meeting for the Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee is scheduled for Thursday, June 13th, 2024 at 1 p.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Ian and seconder Kathy. All right, all those in favor? Thank you very much. It is 1:29. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Take care.